There is a specific weight to a byte. Most people don't feel it. To them, data is just a stream, a boundless river of information that flows from the cloud to their glass screens. They think memory is infinite because they have never had to count it. I was sitting in the basement, the ambient temperature hovering at a crisp 62 degrees, optimal for the silicon, acceptable for the arthritis, staring at the green phosphor cursor blinking on my CRT monitor. It is a steady, rhythmic pulse. It doesn't ask for attention. It demands precision. I was writing a custom driver for a magnetic tape reader, coding in C. Not C++, not C#, and certainly not whatever interpreted script kiddie language is popular this week. Just C, the language of God. In C, you are the master of your own universe, but you are also its janitor. You ask the machine for memory with malloc, and you must return it with free. If you forget, if you are sloppy, you bleed RAM until the system chokes and dies. It is a discipline of absolute accountability. There is no garbage collector here to sweep up your mess. There is only you and the metal. I typed a semicolon, the keystroke echoing off the concrete walls with the satisfying clatter of a Model M keyboard. I checked the pointer arithmetic. It was perfect. I took a sip of lukewarm black coffee and exhaled. Then the door at the top of the stairs banged open, ruining the silence. Grandpa, are you seriously sitting in the dark again? Leo came down the stairs. He is 26, the CEO of Ether, a company that claims to be revolutionizing autonomous vehicle synchronization. He was wearing a hoodie that cost more than my first 3 cars combined and holding an oat milk latte. He smelled of anxiety and expensive cologne. It's not dark, I said, not looking away from the terminal. The refresh rate on this monitor is 85 Hz. The black levels are absolute. Your LCDs are just dark grey. They lie to you about the void. Leo chuckled, a nervous, jagged sound. He paced the room, his sneakers squeaking on the floor. You know, I could buy you a Mac Studio, or a server rack that doesn't look like it was scavenged from the Cold War. You wouldn't have to compile everything from source. You could actually build something useful. I am building something useful, I said. I am building a system that doesn't crash when the internet goes down. Everything crashes, Grandpa. That's why we have redundancy. He tapped his pocket. His phone was vibrating. Not a text, but a notification. Then another. Then a continuous buzz that sounded like an angry hornet trapped in denim. The cloud scales, Leo said, pulling out the phone. We have Kubernetes clusters that spin up automatically. It's self-healing. He glanced at the screen. The smile dropped from his face instantly. What? I asked. I swiveled my chair. Latency spike, Leo muttered. His thumb flew across the glass. The ether mesh. We just jumped from 12 milliseconds to... Whoa. 4,000. 4,000 is not a spike, I said. 4,000 is a pause. 4,000 is an eternity. It's fine, he said, his voice rising in pitch. The load balancers detect the lag. They'll spin up more containers. It's probably just a surge in Tokyo. Traffic is waking up. He sat on my spare stool, opening his MacBook Pro. He didn't open a terminal. He opened a web browser. He navigated to a dashboard filled with beautiful, colourful circles and spinning dials. Grafana. Datadog. It looked like a video game. See? He pointed. Traffic is normal, but... Wait. The green lines on the graph turned yellow. Then, in a wave that moved from left to right, they turned crimson red. Packet loss is at 30%, Leo whispered. 40, 50. The cars are decoupling. His phone began to ring. It wasn't a call. It was pager duty, the alarm wail that signals the end of a career. "Talk to me," I said. "They're pulling over," Leo said, his eyes wide. "The safety protocol is kicking in. 1,000 autonomous taxis in San Francisco just hit their hazard lights and stopped in the middle of the street. The mesh can't sync. They're blind." "Check the logs," I ordered. "I am." He frantically clicked through tabs. "It's all timeouts. 5:04 gateway timeout. 5:02 bad gateway. The API isn't responding." "Not the HTTP logs, Leo," I snapped. "The system logs, the kernel panic messages. What is the machine saying?" "I can't see the kernel," he shouted, stress cracking his voice. "We run on a serverless architecture. I don't have access to the bare metal. Amazon handles that. It's abstracted." "There is always a computer," I said, standing up. My knees popped. There is no such thing as serverless. It's just someone else's computer. And right now, that computer is screaming. Leo was typing furiously. "It's a DDoS. It has to be. Someone is flooding the network." I walked over and looked over his shoulder. The screen was a chaotic waterfall of JSON data and error alerts. It was noise. High-level, interpreted noise. "Stop scrolling," I said. "There." I pointed a calloused finger at the bottom of a stack trace. It was buried under layers of Java and Python gibberish, a single line of raw hexadecimal that had bubbled up from the depths. SIGSEGV. Segmentation fault. Address 0xDEADBEEF. "Dead beef," I murmured. "What?" Leo wiped sweat from his forehead. "Grandpa, please. I have investors calling. We IPO in 3 days. 0xDEADBEEF, I repeated. "It's a debug marker. It's a hex code used in legacy systems to mark uninitialized memory. Someone forgot to clear a pointer." Leo laughed. It was a hysterical, breathless laugh. "A pointer error? Grandpa, we use Rust. We use Go. We use memory-safe languages. We don't have pointer errors. The compiler prevents that. It's impossible." "You are standing on a tower of turtles, Leo," I said softly. "You think you are writing JavaScript. But the JavaScript is interpreted by C++, which is compiled into assembly, which runs on a kernel written in C. Somewhere down there, in the basement of your beautiful cloud, a pointer is dangling, and it just pointed to nowhere." "It's a cyber attack," Leo insisted. "I'm initiating the lockout protocol." "Look at the timestamp," I said. "Look at the rhythm." The error wasn't random. It was pulsing. Every 1.024 seconds. A heartbeat. "An attack is chaotic," I explained. "This is mathematical. This is a loop." Leo's phone rang again. He put it on speaker. "Leo." It was Sarah, his CTO. She sounded like she was running. "The backup servers in Virginia just went down. The database is locking up. It's overwriting the sync tables with null values. We're losing the fleet, Leo. The cars don't know where they are anymore." "Roll back!" Leo screamed. "Revert to the lost stable build." "We did," Sarah yelled back. "We rolled back a week. It's still crashing. It's not the code, Leo. Something is eating the memory from the inside out." Leo dropped his head into his hands. "It's gone," he whispered. "The write-ahead log. If that corrupts, we lose the mapping data. That's the company. That's everything." I looked at the screen. The red wall of failure was total. The unicorn was dying. I turned away from his glossy MacBook. I walked back to my desk. I sat down in front of the heavy, beige casing of my terminal. "Grandpa, what are you doing?" Leo asked, his voice hollow. "I need to call the lawyers. I need to draft a statement." "Don't call the lawyers," I said. They can't read binary. I cracked my knuckles. I reached for the keyboard. Give me the IP address of your primary load balancer, I said. What? No, I can't give you access to the prod environment. That's insane. You're on a antique. Leo, I said. I swiveled the chair. I didn't look at him like a grandfather. I looked at him like the senior architect who used to fire junior devs for failing to comment their assembly code. The bleeding is internal. You're trying to put a band-aid on a hemorrhage. You're looking at the skin, and the cancer is in the bone. Give me the IP. Leo hesitated. He looked at his dying dashboard. He looked at my face. He saw the reflection of the green code in my glasses. 192.168.0.1 is the gateway, he whispered. But it's encrypted. You need the SSH key. You need 2FA. I don't need the SSH key, I said, turning back to the machine. I helped write the protocol that SSH was built to replace. I typed fast. Telnet 192.168.0.18080. Telnet? Leo scoffed, walking over. That port is closed. We blocked that in the firewall config. You blocked the application port, I said. But you are running on a Linux kernel, aren't you? A derivative of the Debian squeeze? Yeah, so? So the kernel has a panic trap, I said. If I send a specific sequence of overflow packets to the diagnostic port, the kernel will think the hardware is failing and drop into debug mode. It's a backdoor. We put it there in 1991 so we could fix servers without driving to the data center. That's a myth, Leo said. The ghost door. It doesn't exist. I didn't answer. I typed +++ATH0. That's a modem hang-up command, Leo said. Grandpa, stop. You're going to brick the router. I ignored him. I typed the sequence that I hadn't used in 20 years. A sequence that felt like a secret handshake with an old friend. Escape sequence. 0x900x900xEB0xFE. The screen flickered. The blinking cursor froze for a second. Then the text changed. Kernel debug mode engaged. Warning. Unstable state. Root access granted. Leo's jaw dropped. How? You bypassed the auth layer. You just walked through the wall. I didn't walk through the wall, I said, my fingers flying across the keys. I remembered where the foundation was poured. I'm not touching your code, Leo. I'm talking to the machine underneath it. I queried the memory dump. Dump 0xDEADBEEF. Stream of data filled the green screen. There, I pointed. Do you see it? It's just numbers, Leo said. It's not just numbers. It's time. I pointed to a specific integer. That value is rolling over. You are using a library for time synchronization. lib-chrono, correct? Yes, Leo said. It's standard. Everyone uses it. I know, I said. I wrote it. Leo stared at me. What? I wrote lib-chrono in 1989, I said. And I made a mistake. I used a signed integer to save space. It just ran out of seconds, Leo. Your cars didn't crash. They just think it's 1901. I hovered my hand over the enter key. I'm going to patch the memory directly, I said. Live. On the running kernel. Leo grabbed my shoulder. Don't! If you shift the bits wrong, you'll wipe the database. You'll kill the company. I won't miss, I said, looking him in the eye. I count every byte. Stop shaking the desk, Leo, I said, my voice flat and monotone. You're vibrating the needle. This is microsurgery. If I slip, I don't just crash the app. I corrupt the boot sector of every node in the cluster. You can't just poke memory, Leo hissed, his hands gripping the back of my chair so hard his knuckles were white. That's theoretical. That's something they talk about in history books. You're modifying the binary while it's running. You'll brick the fleet. You'll turn 1,000 cars into paperweights. I am not bricking them, I said, typing the address string. 0x80484A2. I am teaching them how to count. I looked at the hexadecimal instruction at that address. 7C. In the x86 instruction set, that stands for JL, jump if less. It is a signed comparison. It checks if the time value is less than 0. Because the integer had rolled over to a negative value due to the overflow, the processor was screaming, yes, it is less than 0, and jumping the code execution straight into the crash handler. The crash handler was then trying to log the error, filling the memory and choking the system. It's a signed jump, I muttered to myself. Sloppy, Bill. Very sloppy. You should have foreseen 2026. What are you talking about? Leo pleaded. Grandpa, please. Just let me call Amazon. Amazon can't help you, Leo. They just rent you the electricity. I'm fixing the logic. I moved the cursor over the 7C. In 1992, I said, my finger hovering over the keyboard, memory cost $5 a megabyte. A hard drive the size of a shoebox held 40 megabytes. We fought for every bit. We bled for every byte. I used a signed 32-bit integer for the libchrono timestamp because it saved me one instruction cycle and one parity bit. I didn't think anyone would be running this code 34 years later. You saved a bit? Leo stared at me, horrified. You crashed my company to save a bit. I saved efficiency, I corrected, and now I'm going to spend it. I typed the new value, 73. 73 is JAE, jump if above or equal. It is an unsigned comparison. By changing that one byte, one single byte of machine code, I was telling the processor to ignore the negative sign. I was telling it to treat the overflowed number not as a negative error, but as a very, very large positive number. I was doubling the lifespan of the clock. This is the patch, I whispered. Instruction 7C becomes 73. Signed becomes unsigned. Don't, Leo breathed. I hit enter. The screen didn't explode. There were no sparks. The green text simply stopped scrolling. The room went silent. The high-pitched whine of the cooling fans in Leo's laptop suddenly cut out. The hum of my own server rack seemed to drop an octave. The blinking cursor on my terminal froze solid. It was a deadlock. The CPU was pausing to digest the new instruction. You killed it, Leo whispered. He stepped back, his face draining of colour. It stopped. The heartbeat stopped. You killed the kernel. I sat perfectly still. I didn't breathe. I watched the phosphor. Wait, I said. It's over, Leo said, his voice cracking. The connection is severed. The cars are stranded. I'm going to jail. Wait, I repeated. I knew the machine. I knew its rhythm. It had to flush the instruction cache. It had to realise that the logic had changed. It was like waking a sleeper. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And then the cursor blinked. Blink. The fans in my server rack roared to life, spinning up to maximum RPM. The text on the screen vanished, replaced by a single line. Greater than kernel panic cleared. Execution resumed. I spun my chair around. Check the dashboard. Leo scrambled for his MacBook. He nearly knocked his latte over. He hit the refresh key so hard I thought the chiclet keyboard would shatter. The screen was a wall of red. It's still red. he moaned. It's... Then the red block in the top left corner turned green. Then the next one. Then the database cluster. Then the API gateway. The graph, which had been flatlining at 0, suddenly spiked. A vertical green line shooting toward the sky. Latency, Leo stammered. Latency is dropping. 4,000 milliseconds. 2,000 milliseconds. 500 milliseconds. He watched, mesmerized, as the numbers tumbled. 100 milliseconds. 50 milliseconds. 12 milliseconds. 12 milliseconds, I said, leaning back in my chair and feeling the arthritis settle back into my spine. We are synchronized. Leo looked at the map. The little dots representing the cars, which had been grey and stationary, turned blue. They started to move. The swarm was reforming. They're moving, Leo whispered. They're talking to each other. The data is syncing. No data loss. The right ahead log is intact. He looked at me. His eyes were wide, glassy, filled with a mixture of relief and absolute terrifying confusion. How? How did you do that? You just typed 2 numbers. I changed the definition of time, I said, rubbing my tired eyes. Or at least how the computer perceives it. Leo's phone rang. It was Sarah. He picked it up slowly. Sarah? Leo. Sarah's voice was audible even without the speakerphone. She sounded hysterical, but happy. It just fixed itself. The memory pressure dropped to 0 instantly. The garbage collector cleared the heap. The cars are back online. It's a miracle. Did AWS reroute the traffic? Leo looked at me. I shook my head slightly. I reached over and unplugged the Ethernet cable connecting his laptop to my terminal. Click. The connection was broken. The evidence was gone. Leo stammered. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe it was a legacy driver update. Well, whatever it was, Sarah said, laughing breathlessly. It saved our ass. There's no commit history, though. I can't find who pushed the fix. It's like the system just evolved. Yeah, Leo said, watching me wipe the screen of my terminal with a rag. Evolved. I'll see you at the office, Sarah. He hung up. He lowered the phone. The silence in the basement was different now. It wasn't the silence of tension. It was the silence of a church after a thunderclap. Legacy driver update, Leo repeated. You hacked the kernel of a billion-dollar company using a terminal that is older than I am. I didn't hack it, I said, turning off the monitor. The green glow faded into a small dot in the center, then vanished. I maintained it. You wrote libchrono, Leo said. It wasn't a question. He was piecing it together. The handle on the documentation, I remember seeing it in the README file years ago. KRONOS. That's you. I shrugged. We liked mythology back then. We were building universes out of nothing. It felt appropriate. Grandpa, Leo said, stepping closer. You are KRONOS? You wrote the core time libraries for Unix? Do you have any idea how famous that handle is? People think KRONOS is a collective, or an AI, or dead. I am not dead, I said. I'm just retired. And I prefer Bill. Leo looked at his expensive MacBook, then at my dusty beige tower. He looked at the mess of cables, the soldering iron, the half-assembled tape drive. For the first time in his life, he didn't look at it with pity. He looked at it with awe. We stand on the shoulders of giants, Leo whispered. That's what they told us in CS 101. I thought it was just a metaphor. It's not a metaphor, I said. It's architecture. You built a skyscraper, Leo. It's beautiful. It's shiny. It reaches the clouds. But you forgot that the foundation was poured in 1992. And concrete cracks if you don't inspect it. I stood up. The patch I applied is temporary. It resets the integer to unsigned. It buys you another, 60 years or so. By then, I assume you will have upgraded to a 128-bit architecture, or at least learned to check your dependencies. I will, Leo said. I swear. We'll audit the entire stack. He paused at the bottom of the stairs. He looks back at me. You saved Ether. You saved my reputation. Thank you. I didn't do it for your reputation, I grumbled, picking up a screwdriver. I did it because bad code offends me, and because if your stock goes to zero, who's going to pay for my nursing home? Leo laughed. It was a real laugh this time. I guess I owe you a new computer. A Mac Studio? Top spec? Keep your toys, I said, waving him away. I have work to do. This tape drive isn't going to interface itself. Go run your company, Leo. The market opens in 4 hours. Leo nodded. He turned to leave, but stopped one last time. Grandpa, can you teach me? Not the cloud stuff, the real stuff. The sea? I looked at him. I saw the spark. The same spark I had in 1975. It's difficult, I warned. It doesn't hold your hand. It lets you fail. I know, Leo said. I think I need that. Come back on Sunday, I said. Bring your own laptop and install a Linux partition. No GU is. Deal! Leo walked up the stairs. The door closed. I was alone again. The basement was cool. The silence was heavy. I turned my monitor back on. The cathode ray tube hummed, warming up. The green cursor appeared in the top left corner. Blink, blink, blink. It was steady. It was safe. It was mine. I wasn't KRONOS. I wasn't a saviour. I was just an old man who knew where the bits were buried. I typed make install. The text began to scroll.